But there's his, but he was getting much lower sugar content bricks, but he also did acidity. But I don't know that he may be picking his at the very early ripening. But he also did these genetic trees of how close things are related. Like I said, every professor has to have something that's hard to understand, so this is what he's doing. Then we have James Dawson, who's looking at the major pharmaceuticals through the growth cycle of Haskap. I don't know if you know it, but tomatoes that are partially ripe have more vitamin C than fully ripe ones. And we were curious whether there's a perfect time to pick Haskap if you were going for nutraceutical value. Like, we wouldn't want to pick it early if 2 weeks later the nutraceutical value is higher, or stuff like that. So since you're all getting worried, what is the time? Generally speaking, we found it's pretty even. Like, there's no rush to pick it at any particular time. It's rather stable, the things that we looked at. So he's getting into chemistry. No one has ever done, they've done some nutraceutical things on Haskap, but it's always been a couple Russian things, a couple from the Polish breeding program. No one's ever looked at a wide range of things, and they've never studied the leaves. Leaves actually have a lot more nutraceuticals than the fruit, so it might be possible to do something. He's studied how fast they grow. The berries that make those little weird ends, that just happens like the last few days of the berry growing before they change color. Like, they won't look like that when they're very young. They might be generally shaped something, but if you have a weird end, it does that. So he has categorized a lot of what the chemicals actually are. A lot of what the public awareness is of now is antioxidants, right? But antioxidants is becoming considered not very scientific. And a good analogy would be to say, my fruit has lots of vitamins, and you don't say what vitamin you got. You don't know if it's got vitamin E or C or A or B, right? And actually, antioxidants are, you take the juice of your plant and you put some chemical and see how fast it reacts. It really has nothing to do with how much gets into your blood system, how much it's actually doing. And some of these chemicals, these are all considered antioxidants that are in Haskap. Some of them get digested and disappear. Some of them turn on your immune system and have a better effect than antioxidants. Like, the body doesn't always use them as antioxidants. However, generally speaking, they could be used as antioxidants in your food before you eat them. But anyway, unfortunately, if he were here, he would tell me what these words mean. Some of this has to do with, the human effect has to do with improving your nerves. But in the plant, it helps fight against stresses. This one has to do with quercetin, muscle, mitochondria. Mitochondria have to do with energy levels, and it does the same thing in plants, but it also protects the plant against UV. Right? This one has to do with the chemical with diabetes, and this one stops bugs from eating Haskap as much. Right? Now, the thing to keep in mind in all of these things, you cannot make a direct claim for your Haskap does this until someone's done a human study proving that. You can say my Haskap, my Haskap makes that chemical. And then they'd have to make a leap of faith that chemical does, and that chemical does this, but you can't. If you try to make that connection, you'll be in trouble both in Canada and the US. The cherry growers in the States did some similar human health claims, and the FDA shut down their website, and had to clean it up and no longer make direct claims. So that's kind of like the next step. But anyway, very interesting research, and it's also documenting what chemicals are in Haskap, which is the way the scientists are going now. They want to know what those are and the levels. So he also studied in the leaves and found the leaves generally have 10 times more than the fruit. So if you could use a leaf for something. This is a wild Haskap actually that along the east coast that creeps around on the ground. He's trying some of the wild Haskap to see if they make a different nutraceutical or not. And what he found was, this is from Labrador, and this is some named variety, I forget which one it was. But the wild Canadian one has a different form of quercetin. We have no idea if that's good or bad or indifferent. But the chemistry of the berry is somewhat different. So it's kind of exciting to maybe use that in breeding. Maybe that version is better, or we don't know. The last graduate student, Baratoga, funded by the Mongolian government, has a master's in soil science. He's studying wild Haskap in northern Saskatchewan, but then in the wintertime he's doing greenhouse production. And he's trying to find out what nutrients they're getting from the wild, what are they doing up there. It was interesting, one of his sites still had subsoil ice when the plants were blooming, right? Like if you went a foot down, there was ice, and yet they had burst out blooming to be so early. He's also going to be tied into the the soil tests we're going to do around Saskatchewan and he's got hydroponics going to see, he's trying different pHs. And so far he says he likes pH 6 the best, just eyeballing it, even though we're at pH 8. What pH is here, usually? Does anyone know?
Pretty neutral.
Yeah, so pH is the best so far. And he's only been doing the hydroponics thing for about a month, and he hasn't done the data yet. But he's studying, trying to take what he gets from the wild and put it in the greenhouse. I should also say he's also experimenting having Haskap fruit in a greenhouse. And we did some studies before. Haskap does not like to be at normal greenhouse temperatures when it's getting pollinated or set. When we tried to cross it at a 20-degree greenhouse, we got no set. But we have a greenhouse that's at 15-day, 10-night, and we threw bumblebees in there, and it looks like they're setting. People with raspberry research out in Cornell have been trying to find something that growers could do in their greenhouse when the poinsettias go out the door, but before the bedding plants come in. So we thought he wanted to try Haskap. So we dug up full-grown Haskap plants this tall, and the bees are going around, and he's experimenting with that. So future Haskap breeding, we're studying more on the nutritional needs with Baratoga, but also a different grant. We're going to go try to get a soil and leaf analysis of healthy places so that we have like a baseline of what, if you got leaf analysis or soil analysis, does that seem what a good Haskap plant turns into or a bad one? We're continuing breeding with mechanical harvesting. James found that as a general screening, just looking at the color of the juice is pretty highly correlated to all the other tests of nutraceuticals, right? So it's 75% guess accurate that quercetin will be in that thing that has a lot of juice. So we're going to do some of that. Faster growth in multiple harvest seasons. Haskap, we're going to look more at the Haskap. There's one of the tallest Haskap plants I got from the wild, and there's the shortest one. That one's only a few inches tall. There's some odd-looking berries. We want to use the wild species. We don't know what ploidy level they are. They could be 2 or 4x, and regular Haskap is 4x, so we want to see that. There's one subspecies that tastes disgusting, but it grows an extra month. And like in the field, all of its fields, it's almost twice as tall as all the others. We don't know if we breed the bad flavor out of it, if we also breed out the fast growing. So it's kind of a long shot. When we got flooded, the wild Haskap never changed colors. It stayed green. At least the first 3 years it didn't change color. We don't know if there's something genetic about that, or maybe there's some wild microbes in the roots because I pulled them out of the ground. We're kind of investigating that. We think the wild Haskap of Canada has a slightly different flavor, but is pleasant. Unlike the wild Haskap of Northern Europe, which the average one tastes bad, the average Canadian wild Haskap tastes good. And I haven't tasted bitter ones. I've tasted boring ones, but I haven't tasted disgusting ones. So that's a plus. We don't know if breeding the larger fruit with the little wild ones, are we going to get really small fruit for a while, or if we'll get hybrid vigor, maybe health value. And also this is fun. It's easy to attract graduate students to work on a new set of germplasm stuff. So my sabbatical is to write a Haskap manual. I'm going to visit as many farms and take pictures and stuff. I've been taking notes of what you've been telling me today. And I'm going to finish writing. On the web is probably half a manual anyway with all those articles, but I want to write the other half. I'm also going to get more grape germplasm at USDA and go to nursery symposiums, but I'll continue giving talks and workshops. If anyone has an article on fruit they want to write, send it to me very quickly, because the deadline in April, they want to finalize all the articles. But the Prairie Garden does an annual thing, and they have a theme. Next year's theme is going to be fruit, right? And they always have a guest editor, which is me this year. So I'm probably going to have to write 4 articles for that and drum up stuff. More information, fruit.usass.ca is our website. If you go to this website, but you can also search Saskatchewan Agriculture, maybe ADF, you can actually get our 100-some page reports that we've previously published on Haskap. There is one that's on my computer, almost finished, that'll probably show up in a few months. But we've got 6 years of work on there. We have Haskap Day as the last Friday in June this year, plant sale. We do propagation workshops, and that's all at this website. So I also want to acknowledge that Saskatchewan Agriculture has been funding us for many years, and also royalties from the sale of our varieties. And there's the funding sources. I think that's it. Oh, one last thing. I tacked this on. If you have a good idea, experiment. Experiment isn't just trying something and nothing else. You have to have more than one treatment, and you have to do it more than once, and you have to look at the results, right? It's not an experiment just to grow Haskap and I don't know, one variety. This is an example of an experiment we did with cherries. Whether you freeze your cherries before canning or freeze it after, can it fresh. And the frozen ones make more juice come out, and other ones, if it was already fresh, the color doesn't get as bad. But anyway, comparable treatment, same time, same place, same way. We once had a grower at Saskatchewan Fruit Growers telling everyone, if you put flax straw around your strawberries, the mice hate that. They won't go in your field. And I was like, really? Why is that? And one of the growers says to me, I have flax bales, and every time I move them, mice move out from under the bales. So I asked this guy, well, okay, did you do it at the same time? Did you? And he goes, yeah. And did you lay it down at the same way? Yeah. Same place? Oh no. The flax straw was on the plateau, and the other straw was down by the river. Well, where do you think more wildlife is going to live? It's going to live by the river. So he violated one of these things. He has an experiment in 2 different places, and he was actually, he had everyone excited. They were all going to grow flax or get flax straw and put it around the strawberries. Now you need to have a control, which we need a standard for comparison. If there's something everyone always does, do that to compare to your new treatment. Don't just jettison the average, or else you're going to start like urban legend. If you don't do it the traditional way, how do you know your experiment even worked? And then it's good to do it more than once. If I had done this cherry experiment with just one plant, what would I know? But this is actually, this is 6 more varieties, and they all reacted the same way. So that gave me more confidence that freezing the fruit and then canning it makes the juice get darker. And if you actually open those cherries up, they would be even paler than these. So analyze it. You might want to actually weigh, if you think it's more productive, you want to weigh your plants or weigh your berries and stuff. Maybe have a taste panel other than you. You might get prejudiced. Is this a variety trial? No. It's just one plant. 2 varieties, well, that's almost a trial, except they're not in the same place. That would have been a better trial. That would be better, but that would be even better, right? If this is a south end or something. But this would even be better, having many people doing the same thing. Same way with, now this is, if each color were a different variety, that would be the ultimate trial, but that is too much of a headache, right? You wouldn't be able to see the results. So maybe having plots, but that's not quite the same place. You know, actually the study of statistics was invented by a soil scientist who saw different plants were doing differently in the same field that were the same variety. That's how statistics began to understand. This would be a much better variety trial than that, right? To have every other row something. If you put your control over there, well, that might not be such a hot idea at that end of the field. This is okay, but it's still, if there's some difference having that gap, these 2 varieties always get that gap, and the middle one's always kind of crowded. So it might be good to spice it up. This is a variety trial of a sort. This is my first cuttings from Russia. And when they arrived, some didn't root at all and they just died. We probably did screening at the time. But this makes me think, well, what about those plants? Later on we planted those in this field. What about, this plant has big leaves on it. This one's just started, this one has hardly made any leaves. What's the growth rate in that container? You know? Or what if I had bought one variety from one place and one from another? Right? Some of the this is now an observation trial. I wouldn't say a variety. We had 3 plants of each kind. Because we had replication, we kind of felt, well, that looks uniform between it. That might be an observation trial that you could do. Try some varieties in one spot like that. But I wonder whether that rooting trial affected the observation trial. Because what if the plant was little smaller going in? Anyway, that's my little thing on doing experiments.
Can I interject on
Yeah.
that one there?
Yeah.
I remember when I told you that my partner had all these peas that he let go completely rotten. And I don't know if you know rotten peas. Rotten peas are the worst smelling thing in the universe. Bar none. They're worse than manure and everything. And I said, well, boy, this is gotta be the best green manure in the world. And Bob says, don't do too much at one time, you'll kill them all. Okay. Darn it. I'd like to do all kinds of manure. So we did 20 plants at the beginning of a row, just to see what would happen. Well, you can stand back from the row there. The ones that we put the pea manure on grew this high, and the ones next, I think it was Aurora, I don't know,
Okay.
Borealis, were this size. But it was 3 times as many shoots on the ones with the peas, and the rotten peas burned off all the weeds on the sides. So the next year, we took all the stuff so I took all the different varieties that we have in different rows, and we did like 8 rows, and did the whole row. So that was in 2013, and left 4 rows alongside it to see what would happen. The 4 rows, while they're still full of weeds, they didn't grow, but these things that had the rotten peas on them in 2013 and 2014, unbelievable growth.
Yeah. But since you left some, you could tell. Otherwise, it could have been urban legend and you wouldn't know. So, yeah, that's just
One of those things.
one of those things. So
if you ever have a real bad crop failure,
Try geese?
try rotten peas.
yeah.